Chapter 37, Escape. How dare you? Surrender now and we'll grant you a swift and painless death. The portly monk and his companion were furious, and the former flipped a hand over to produce a yellow jade badge, which he thrust forward with venom. A beam of yellow light shot out of the surface of the jade badge, landing on the yellow light barrier in a flash. The light barrier instantly parted down the center to create a path that was around 20 feet wide. The two spatial tempering cultivators instantly flew in, charging toward the figure inside. Right at this moment, the figure suddenly raised a hand, chanting an incantation as he pointed a finger forward. A beam of black light erupted out of his fingertip before striking the white jade pillar at the center of the hall. All of the runes on the jade pillar instantly lit up, as did the yellow light barrier, and it released countless bursts of yellow light that struck the two spatial tempering cultivators like lightning while they were still in midair. As a result, both of them instantly felt as if they had fallen into a swamp. Their body weight increased by several hundredfold in the blink of an eye, and it became extremely difficult to even raise a hand. "The array has been tampered with," the thin man exclaimed in shock. "Who are you? How are you able to manipulate this array?" the portly monk interrogated in a furious voice. The figure completely ignored them as his spiritual sense quickly read through the jade slips, and at the same time, he made a string of hand seals without pause, casting a series of incantation seals onto the white jade pillar. The yellow light instantly began to ripple before revolving around the pair of spatial tempering cultivators, forming a pair of yellow vortexes that completely bound them. The two of them struggled with all their might, frantically unleashing attacks to strike at the yellow vortexes that they were trapped within. But no matter what they did, they were completely powerless to escape. Their fury and frustration were growing by the second, but there was nothing that they could do. This yellow restriction was set up to keep out enemies, but somehow it was being used against them. Right at this moment, 7 or 8 figures flew in front outside, all of whom were deity transformation stage patrol group leaders. They were momentarily stunned by the sight that they were greeted by, but they quickly returned to their senses, summoning a series of treasures to attack the yellow restriction in an attempt to rescue the pair of spatial tempering cultivators. "Stop! Don't attack!" the portly monk exclaimed in an alarmed voice. However, it was already too late. 7 or 8 treasures struck the yellow vortexes, causing them to tremble violently. However, at the same time, a series of millstone-sized bulges appeared on the yellow vortexes, and 7 or 8 tentacle-like bursts of light shot out in a flash, wrapping themselves around the deity transformation cultivators before dragging them into the vortexes in the blink of an eye. These patrol group leaders possessed far inferior cultivation bases to the spatial tempering cultivators, so they were naturally completely immobilized as well. "Damn it!" the portly monk roared in frustration. "Have you notified the sect of the situation here?" the thin man asked in an urgent voice. "The sect has already been notified." Even speaking was difficult for the deity transformation stage patrol group leaders. The expressions of the two spatial tempering cultivators eased slightly upon hearing this, and they turned their attention back to the figure. The figure was still breaking restrictions one after another, before rapidly reading through the contents of the jade slips in the stone cabinets. He was doing so with astounding speed and efficiency, and he had already read through most of the jade slips in the room. The two spatial tempering cultivators were desperate to intervene, but there was nothing that they could do aside from watch helplessly from within the confines of the yellow restriction. "Who dares to infiltrate the scripture library?" Right at his moment, a thunderous roar rang out from outside, causing the air within the entire hall to tremble violently, and even the yellow restriction was swaying slightly in the face of the powerful sound waves. The eardrums of the cultivators trapped in the yellow restriction were ringing loudly, but ecstatic looks had appeared on all of their faces. The figure stiffened slightly upon hearing this voice, then cast his gaze outside, following which the vertical black eye in his glabella began to glow brightly. Several beams of black light shot forth in a flash, shattering the restrictions of the 3 remaining stone cabinets at the same time. Almost at the exact same moment, a red-haired giant of a man came barreling in through the entrance. The man was over 20 feet tall and was built like a steel wall. He was wearing a crimson robe that was burning with scorching flames, and the entire hall was instantly plunged into what felt like a lava pit. Judging from the aura radiating from the man's body, he was a body integration stage powerful being. Die! The red-haired man cast his gaze toward the figure, and his eyes were practically burning with fury. With a sweep of his hand, he sent a massive burning sword flying through the air, and the sword swelled to several hundred feet in size mid-flight before striking the yellow light barrier with devastating might. A vast expanse of yellow light emerged in an attempt to oppose the giant sword, but it didn't even manage to make contact with the sword before it was torn apart by the flames burning on the blade of the sword. The giant flaming sword struck the yellow barrier with ferocious might, and countless cracks instantly appeared on its surface, but it was able to withstand the attack without completely shattering. Right at this moment, the figure swept a hand through the air, releasing a burst of suction force that drew all of the jade slips in the 3 stone cabinets into his grasp before being stowed away. The red-haired man was furious to see this, and he immediately made a hand seal, upon which the giant flaming sword swelled to twice its original size, and the flames on its surface sprang up to several dozen feet. The yellow light barrier was completely shattered with a dull thump, and the 2 spatial tempering cultivators and the deity transformation stage patrol group leaders were finally freed. The giant flaming sword faltered momentarily, then continued to crash down toward the figure. All of a sudden, the figure raised his head, and dazzling light erupted out of the vertical eye in his glabella. Countless back runes surfaced within the eye, and a thick pillar of black light was blasted straight into the giant sword. A dull thump rang out as the pillar of black light exploded, and most of the flames on the giant sword instantly dissipated. At the same time, ripples surged through the surrounding space, immobilizing the sword in midair, thereby preventing its fall. "That's the Law Destruction Eye," the red-haired man exclaimed. The figure made a hand seal while chanting an incantation, and a burst of purple lightning appeared over his body before quickly spreading to form a lightning array around him. Dazzling light flashed within the array amid a rumbling thunderclap, and the blurry figure within the array had become even more indistinct. "You're not getting away!" The red-haired man's fury was growing by the second, and all of a sudden, flames rose up on the giant sword again, as it abruptly split itself into 2. A fiery sword projection that was comparable in size to the giant sword came crashing down, traveling several times faster than the giant sword itself as it struck the lightning array. A resounding boom rang out as dazzling red light erupted in all directions alongside bursts of violent shockwaves. The 2 spatial tempering cultivators shuddered violently, and they were forced to take several backward steps before finally managing to steady themselves. As for the deity transformation stage patrol group leaders, their legs instantly gave out from under them, causing them to fall to their knees, and the protective spiritual light around them was flickering like a candle in the breeze. The red light dissipated, revealing a deep trench that had been slashed into the ground, but the figure had already vanished. Everyone exchanged a series of bewildered glances before turning to the red-haired man, who wore a furious expression. Meanwhile, at the center of the secret chamber in Hanli's cave abode, there was a large purple array engraved onto the ground, and arcs of electricity were surging throughout the array. Hanli's eyes were tightly shut, and he was seated beside the array with his eyes closed. All of a sudden, a burst of dazzling light appeared in the array, and a resounding thunderclap rang out, following which a humanoid figure enshrouded in black chi emerged. Hanli's eyes immediately sprang open, and a hint of elation appeared on his face as he cast an incantation seal. The black chi around the figure quickly faded, revealing a shimmering silver-armored warrior that had been summoned from a talisman. Half of the silver-armored warrior was destroyed, and its aura was fading in and out of existence, seemingly about to be snuffed out at any moment. With a wave of Hanli's hand, around 20 to 30 jade slips flew out of the armored warrior's body before landing in his grasp. He stowed the jade slips away, then pressed a finger against the armored warrior's glabella. Black light flashed from the armored warrior's glabella, following which an egg-sized black bead flew out from within with a burst of silver energy slowly flowing within it. At the same time, the light on the armored warrior's body faded, and it disintegrated into a tattered silver talisman and a purple talisman, both of which drifted down through the air at the same time. The silver talisman was none other than the Armor Origin Talisman, while the purple one was the High Zenith Invisibility Talisman, both of which had been refined using the materials that Han Li had stolen from the Heavenly Talisman Hall several days ago. Unfortunately, the Armor Origin Talisman was already too severely damaged for further usage. 1. For more on the Law Destruction Eye, please refer to RMJI Chapter 1180, Fire Spirit Threads, and the Law Destruction Eye. 2. For more information on the Armor Origin Talisman and the High Zenith Invisibility Talisman, refer to RMJI Chapter 1472, Two Talismans, and Chapter 1306, High Zenith Invisibility Talisman, respectively.